Okay. So there's the three groups. So if we go Jada down this side and then Yvonne on this side. So keep your hand up, Yvonne, for... So Yvonne on this side. Thanks, Jada.
I just had a question with that example.
Mm-hmm.
Like if your dad left home, is that really a single event? Because isn't that almost like affecting your entire childhood?
No.
You're missing out on that interaction.
No. It's only affecting your entire childhood because of the way the person who stays and what she feels about it. Can you see?
Okay.
See, if the person who stays, your mother, is angry about it every time she thinks about it, and she's upset with the man and really angry all the time, then that's going to have a severe effect on that child. But if the person who stays still loves the child and daddy still, even if daddy doesn't visit the child anymore, but the child's reinforced it, no, daddy left because daddy just doesn't know how to love, or daddy and me had big arguments and we couldn't resolve them, and he doesn't want to be around me as a result. But why would a father generally leave the family home and still not connect with his child? Well, it's usually because of the attitude of the one who stays. In other words, the attitude of the person who stayed, the mother, and her attitude towards the event, which then the children will... And that's a multiple event-based emotion then.
Okay.
So it's the mother's attitude that's reinforced over and over and over and over again. That's a multiple event-based emotion. The father leaving is a single event. Interesting, hey? Mm. And if you had worth, if you had a feeling of worth as a child, it wouldn't even bother you at all.
Okay.
Interesting. You wouldn't be bothered by daddy leaving. There's other men around the place, and if dad wants to leave, he can leave. Can you see?
Yeah, kind of.
It's hard to see sometimes when you're in it. See, it's like it's a situation that's happened to you, right? Mm. And so quite often we think it's the person who left that's caused this constant problem for the rest of our life, but actually the reinforcement of the belief didn't usually occur by the person who left. It's actually being driven by the person who stayed. Yeah.
Okay.
And your father left because your mother has incestuous relationship with younger men, and like she has an incestuous, as I pointed out with your case, your mother has an incestuous relationship with you, which means that she established an emotional incestuous relationship when you came along, and that probably challenged her relationship with her father. So you don't really know why he left. Do you understand? Mm. And she won't tell you the truth of why he left because she doesn't know the truth herself of why he left. She will only tell you what she believes to be the truth about why he left. And that's driven by her addictions not getting met by him and so forth, and her anger about that and so forth. And that is a multiple event-based emotion projected at the child over and over and over and over and over again for years and years and years, and that's going to have a huge effect on you.
Yeah.
So the thing that's actually having the higher effect on you is not the fact that dad left. It's what happened as a subsequent result of dad leaving in the family after that point in time. And that was carried on by your mother, not your father. And this is where most of you don't see that actually some of you sort of are really angry with your dads when actually, your mother has created so many of these multiple event emotions inside of you when she was left, and your dad only created one. And many of you are thinking, if I deal with my dad, this situation will resolve. And it never resolves, no matter how much you try to deal with your dad. Because the issue is it didn't come from your dad. It come from your mum. And that's what you got to address. And if you don't address that, then things won't change. So you see, we've got everything up.
It feels so much like it was my dad.
I know. I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like. But the reality is, you'll come to process some emotion at later stages and you'll realise that, wow, what I've got going on with my mum is a lot bigger than what I got going on with my dad, because dad wasn't there. So the only thing I got going on with dad was that he wasn't there. But even being told, and your mother, I see mothers doing this all the time, reinforcing to their children that daddy left because of the child, or daddy left because he didn't love the child. But really what the mother's doing is avoiding her pain that daddy left, which was a feeling that she wasn't the one he wanted, right? And they're just reinforcing that pain upon the child. And I've seen that happen over and over again historically, particularly in Western society. It's shocking, yeah. And the children grow up feeling that dad's the one that's to bother, when actually it's the mother's rage-based emotions projected at the whole family that have caused the multiple event-based emotions in the child. Yeah. And as I say, like, the reality is both of your parents could leave. If you had a sense of worth, it wouldn't bother you at all. So someone didn't give you a sense of worth, right? Now, I suggest that people who can't give you a sense of worth if they don't have one themselves, but that's a part of that process. But at the end of the day, yeah, you've got to see actually that you can process all you want about your dad, but it's highly likely that you're not going to get rid of this sense of low worth with your dad unless you start looking at your mum's attitude towards your dad.
Okay.
That makes sense? Yeah.
Thank you.
So single event, and that's why I raised that particular single event-based emotion, because it's one of those things that I see a lot of people going, oh, my dad left me when I was little, and so that's had a huge impact on my life. And it's not actually the thing that had a huge impact on your life. It's the emotions of the people who stayed and what they projected at you that has had by far the largest impact upon your life. And those emotions are very bad, very hard to address, because the person who stays is the person you think you love, and you think that's the person who loved you. And it's very confusing, very confusing. Yeah, very hard to address. So, you know, this is where understanding these emotions is a bit tricky, because we often think one thing when actually it's the other when it comes to our situation. Yeah. Okay, so we're right up to there. So we can get those things. No more questions about that? Kelly, you want to ask one? Then we can move forward.
I'm just wondering what the emotion is happening when, historically speaking, women keep the children, and that it's very rare that when a man and a woman separate, that a man has the children, so a woman...
Well, again, it depends what country you're talking about. If you're talking about the Middle East, it would be completely the opposite. But you know, obviously in Western society, that's the case. You know, every country is different based on its unhealed emotional injuries of the country, the society itself. So in Eastern countries, generally, the male keeps the children, not the female, if the female leaves. And so it's very hard for a woman to leave the family under those circumstances, because she's not only leaving her husband, but she also has to leave her children. Right. In Western society, it's more acceptable that women take the children than men. And in fact, governments and laws have been made specifically for that to occur, because they believe the mother is more loving than the father, which is also incorrect. Right. So, you know, at the end of the day, none of us should have any problems with anybody looking after anybody. But you know, we're so tied into this family concepts that we have this concept in our mind that they're our children, they belong to us. So in, say, Jada's situation, if you had a proper loving authority around, he would have been taken away from both parents. So in the spirit world, Jada would have grown up without a mother or a father, but with a beautiful, loving person who taught him to love himself and taught him to care for himself, and taught him that both mum and dad had got issues with love, and taught him that they were both wrong. And does that make sense? That's what would have happened. And he might not have seen them for, you know, 50 years, 100 years, 200 years after they've passed, after they've worked out their issues of love, and then he might visit them or whatever. And there'd be nothing wrong with that. Nobody in the spirit world would see anything wrong with that. Right. On earth, we have major meltdown about that. Oh, they've been taken away from their mother and how bad that is, and so forth. It's better to be with their mother. Tristan has just is working as a social worker in Kingaroy, Tristan being my eldest son, and he says frequently, like, the authorities believe that it's best to leave the child with the parent, no matter what the circumstance is, except when the circumstance is major violence or sexual abuse. And that this has got to change, right? If we're ever going to change how much hurt is put on children, this has got to change. So yeah, it's completely different in the spirit world. A person like in Judd's case, his mother has a huge amount of anger and rage towards men and has groomed him to become her ideal man. Now that is just as damaging, if not more damaging, than daddy just leaving. Does that make sense? So this is what I'm saying. He would have been removed from both parents in the spirit world.
Thank you.
Rita, thank you.
Would it be even more damaging for the child, for the son, when the mother is deep down in her soul angry with the father?
Yes.
But pretends to be to talk positive about the dad and finds good things. And
yes, very confusing.
Very confusing.
Yeah, because on one hand he's receiving all of this anger towards the male gender, of which he is, and at the same time getting a lot of words that seem to say anger. So now he's confused about a woman's anger. He doesn't know when a woman's angry, when she's not angry. He's got no way of measuring that. And then on top of that, she is actually angry and she's not owning up to it, so she's lying to him, and he feels the anger and he can't say anything about it because she tells him that she's not. So it's really, really confusing, really confusing. And that's why I'm saying in the spirit world, yeah, they'd be taken away from both parents under those circumstances. If the child would leave, you know, some children won't leave, but if the child is willing to leave, and most children are willing to leave because they hate those kind of circumstances, they'd be taken from both parents. Does that make sense?